Check out this retarded revival fitness video. Where the fuck is it?
Chest up, shoulders back. This is Revival Fitness, your home for gains and brains. And it's about freaking time. It's taken a fair amount of trial and error to get to this point, but I think I have finalized the new bulking diet. That's right, kids, it is Cultivating Mass Season 3. I've never been somebody that grows remarkably fast, yet I am in an activity to which being as big as possible is the name of the game. So we have a lot to cover in this video. We're going to go over the calories and do the math and see how fat I allegedly should get very quickly on this diet. Go over the macros, the foods themselves, as well as supplements. But first, I want to talk about how I ended up on carnivore in the first place. Because I'm sure some of you, based on just seeing the title and thumbnail, you're mashing away on the keyboard. Oh, this diet is terrible, bro. Why would you ever eat this way? It's such a bad idea. It's so dangerous. It's really not, but if you are stuck in the mainstream headspace when it comes to these subjects, that's what you're going to think, because that's all you've been told, and you don't know any better. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I used to have the same opinions myself until I actually really dug into this topic and learned much more about it. And on that note, I am proud to announce that it is finally here. The Body Composition Bible. Nutrition principles for more muscle and less fat. I have taken everything that I have obsessively learned and studied the past number of years, as well as my own experience with clients, tons of references. I compiled it all into this relatively concise but absolutely information-packed guide, and you can also grab a training program if you were sick. I was purely carnivore on some days. I like to say that as eating only animal products. I've seen some people say carnivore is 70% or more of your total intake as animal products. I'm not sure where that came from or what, I guess, the formal definition is, but this diet you're going to see is exclusively animal products besides, I think, one or two things. So I first tried this out last spring because I was getting a pretty significant skin problem. It was psoriasis as far as I could tell. I had red blotches all over my body, my arms, my legs, my torso, under my arms. So you look up elimination diets, skin condition diets, you kind of sift through all the stuff. Once you start doing that, you're going to eventually lead to carnivore. I mean, you could really say that all roads lead to carnivore.
So, a few problems here. One. There is very little research linking psoriasis with food. We do know that psoriasis is an autoimmune condition, and if you have an allergy to certain foods, you may end up having an immune response that triggers psoriasis. Two, I don't know why you'd think psoriasis is triggered by vegetables. Could very easily be triggered by animal products, especially something like dairy, which we do know with certain people, it does actually trigger an autoimmune response, which causes type 1 diabetes. Secondly, psoriasis often just clears up on its own. You might get some sort of immune flare-up, and then it goes away. Then it might come back again, then it goes away. Sometimes it stays away for good. You might have gotten some sort of mild infection that you couldn't really notice, which triggered the psoriasis, and then it just didn't come back. I had a friend who ended up getting psoriasis. He got some immune suppressant injections, and then the psoriasis never came back. So who knows what may or may not have been triggering it, but claiming a carnivore diet cures psoriasis, just fucking stupid. There's no literature on this whatsoever, and when n equals 1, again, the psoriasis may have gone away for any number of fucking reasons.
Carnivore eventually, and I said, why not? I've got nothing to lose. I went carnivore for a month. My skin completely cleared up. So that's when I first realized, okay, there is something to this diet. So I'm gonna recap now the two.
Yeah, so that's just stupid. You have no idea why your psoriasis may have cleared up. Could have been because you're in a caloric deficit. Could have been because you eliminated a particular type of food. Maybe he stopped consuming dairy. Maybe it was eggs. Maybe it was, I don't know, a banana. Who the fuck knows? Could have been anything.
2 prior bulks you guys have seen me do since coming on YouTube just over 4 years ago. So the first time I started bulking on here was fall of 2020. That infamous video, 4,000 calories a day, full day of eating, that got a lot of views, even when my channel was really small back then. I started out at 4,000 calories, gradually increased it. I went from 167 pounds up to 190 pounds over the span of 1.5 years. I then cut back down to pretty much the same weight, 167 pounds for my first show, that disaster class. After that, I bulked for another 1.5 years, and this time, it was over 5,000 a day, as I have outlined all of these in full day of eating videos if you want to check them out. Toward the end of that bulk, I was pushing the pedal to the metal because I was aiming for the 315 bench, which I hit, and I hit 200 pounds body weight. And at the end of that, I was eating everything in sight essentially. I was having macaroni and cheese and pancakes, as well as beef and eggs. I then did my recent show. I got down to the weight I basically started lifting at, 155 or so pounds by the time I was on stage. And now we're going to bulk. I would say a goal here is 225 pounds. That might be a bit lofty, but why not at least aim for it? But without question, I have to get over 200 pounds. And I want to keep this on the leaner side. That's the biggest goal I have with this bulk, because people in the carnivore space often talk about they can eat almost as much as they want, and they rarely seem to gain much body fat, if any at all. And that really angers people because they say, no, that's not possible. Well, I'm going to put that to the test. I am going to be eating over 6,000 calories a day and doing so not just for a month or for a couple weeks like a little short-term experiment. This is going to be for, realistically, probably another 1.5 years, maybe even 2 years. I want to really compare this because I've eaten the typical mixed diet, typical higher carb diets in the past. I've never done this way of eating long-term in a bulking phase, and I want to see what happens. You remember those old messages that came up before WWE came?
So if he's going to eat a quote-unquote carnivore diet, I can already imagine what's going to happen. His workouts are probably going to start sucking. He'll probably notice that when he doesn't consume many carbohydrates, the amount of repetitions he can do per set is going to go down. And very quickly. So if he has to do, say, 2 to 3 exercises per body part per session, so he starts off with bench, and then maybe does incline bench, and then like flies, he might be able to get a normal amount of repetitions per set on like the bench, but then when he goes to incline bench, and then when he goes to flies, he's going to notice the reps and the amount of weight he can do drops off really quickly. You need carbohydrates to produce energy. Fuck, god damn it, there's a fly. And when you don't have that energy in your body, you're not going to be able to lift. So you're going to, be able to bench normal. You could probably do 250 for sets of 5, something like that. Then when he goes on to incline bench, if he's doing 180, he might be able to get 3 or 4 reps, and then that's it. And then he's going to have to bring the weight way down. And then when he does flies, he's going to do 20 pounds, and then again, only be able to get 6-7 reps. That's pretty typical. If he's not supplementing with any kind of electrolytes, he's probably going to notice muscle cramping. He may even have that problem despite taking electrolyte supplements. You need carbohydrates to store electrolytes in your body. If you don't have carbohydrates, again, you're just going to be basically perma-dehydrated, and you're going to have issues with cramping. You might even notice irregular heart rhythms, which isn't great. Probably going to have issues sleeping, and testosterone likely is also going to go down because low carbohydrate diets increase cortisol, and as cortisol increases, testosterone goes down. So again, sleep issues, might have issues with anxiety, low mood, lack of energy, motivation, stuff like that. That's all possible.
Came on that said, do not try this at home, and gave that message and that disclaimer. I'm giving you the same one here. Do not try this at home. I am a trained professional, and I'm not a formal scientist, but I am a bro scientist. And and I've got a PhD in that. So with that said, and now let's do the formal calorie calculations. And this is something I have got flack for on my previous bulks too, because based on the surpluses I was in, I should have gotten obese multiple times by this point. People always say, oh, well, you just didn't track properly, bro. The whole calorie thing, it's nothing more than a ballpark estimation, and calories do not even describe what we absorb from the food we eat. You guys will figure this out eventually, maybe. Actually.
So when it comes to weight loss, it's almost a perfect prediction with how many calories you're eating under maintenance versus weight loss. You can almost track it like within a few percentage points. When it comes to weight gain, it can be a little different, especially when you're talking about very high protein intakes. Because of the thermogenic effect of food, you end up losing a lot of energy, especially with very high protein diets. There's also hormonal things that can come into effect, especially if you're doing resistance training. Again, some of those calories are going to be, put towards muscle building, not fat gain. Carbohydrates as well, they're stored as glycogen. So when you're doing a lot of glycogen depleting exercises, that energy is going to get stored in your muscle tissue as glycogen and not just be put on as body fat. So there's a lot of different variables there, but again, generally speaking, you can accurately predict how much body fat you're going to gain based on how many calories you're eating over maintenance.
Actually, you probably won't, but it is what it is. So age, I just turned 28. Height, I am 5'10". My current weight at the start of this, stabilizing after the show, was about 185 pounds. And then the activity. So this is something that's kind of funny in its own right. You pick your activity multiplier and you find your so-called maintenance calories, your TDEE, based on what you input and this estimate here, which again is extremely vague, but people think this is like some ironclad hard science. So what I'm going to do, guys, for the purpose of this experiment, I'm going to pick the highest outputs possible to make the margin of error as small as possible. And you're still going to see how much weight I should be gaining. But here's our categories: sedentary, little or no exercise, exercise 1 to 3 times a week, 4 to 5, intense exercise 3 to 4 times a week, or daily. You see, these are just very vague. Intense exercise.
BMR doesn't really change much between individuals, so this doesn't mean as much as you'd think it would. There's probably about a 200 calorie per day variance between individuals.
6 to 7 times a week, and then extra active is very intense exercise daily or a physical job. So I do stand during the day. I have a standing desk. I'm standing right now as I record this. Let's just pick the extra active one. So let's see what it tells me. So to maintain weight, and mind you, I picked the highest energy multiplier possible, 3,449 calories a day. Now let's show the info for weight gain. Mild weight gain is 36.99. 1 pound a week, that is the 500 surplus, as you can see, compared to that. 3,949 calories a day. Fast weight gain, 2 pounds a week. Nobody has any need to do that. 4,449 calories a day. So we could just even round up and say 4,500. So I am 2,500 calories per day over this amount here that says I should maintain my weight, and that is 1,500 more than the point that I should be gaining, apparently, 2 pounds a week. So based on this calculator, every subsequent 250 calorie addition is going to net 0.5 more pounds gained per week. So if we take 6,000, subtract it from the maintenance weight, 2,551, divide that by 500, which should equal 1 pound gain a week. That gives us a multiplier of 5.1. Let's multiply that by half a year, 26 weeks. I should gain over 132 pounds by the beginning of 2025. So you can place your bets below as to what you think is going to happen. And this is even funnier because I've been eating over 6,000 calories a day on most days since my show, which was not even 2 months ago at the time of this recording. You can see on the screen now the comparisons of my physique when I was just a few days out versus more recently. This was about a month after the show.
So he's claiming he's eating 6,000 calories per day. Let's just assume, for the sake of argument, he's accurately tracking, and he is indeed eating 6,000 calories. I have my doubts, but let's assume. If you go through the comments, he admitted to having diarrhea pretty frequently, saw it when he responded to a comment. So here's an interesting one. The 5,500 plus calories a day is a total torture. My last bulk in 2022 felt like a chore. Had to watch your videos for entertainment to finish eating. I was barely able to finish that much on my last one. I don't think this could possibly be easy unless I just ate pure junk food. So he's already saying this is like hella torture every day. It's a struggle to finish all this food. He's probably not eating 6,000 calories per day, consistently. He may be eating that some days, but if you look at it as an average, he might be getting like around 4,000 or something. If you eat like that every day or so, you must be shitting concrete. Bare minimum on such a diet, you should include fibers. It's the opposite. This much liquid fat can lead to lots of watery shit. Might add fiber to slow that down. Cholesterol isn't an issue. Add fiber to slow that down. Cholesterol isn't an issue. Probably going to do a video response to this video. So he's saying he's having a lot of diarrhea eating like this. So if he's having a lot of watery stools, he's probably not absorbing those calories. And he's saying he's eating 6,000 calories, but he's like crapping it out like instantly. So if he's having that much diarrhea and crap, I don't know what the point is eating that way.
And I obviously gained back a good amount of body fat. Not excessive though, and I can still see my abs without even flexing terribly hard. So I would love to keep visible abs for the duration of this entire bulk, and I've been trying out different versions of this diet. They all have been at least 6,000 calories a day. As you can imagine, eating this much food on any diet is quite the challenge, but on carnivore especially, with as satiating as a lot of these foods are, this is far from easy. I mean, I am basically eating from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. I am having to force feed. I have to just kind of stare at the food and will myself into eating it. As I've talked about before, guys, this is the epitome of first world problems. Like, oh, I have so much food to eat, God forbid. So finally, without further ado, let's dive into the foods themselves. Those of you who've been here a while know that I start every day with breakfast, and that is 6 eggs, right? Wrong. Double it, give it to the next person. We're up to 12 eggs a day.
So again, this might explain some of his diarrhea. If you eat this much eggs in one sitting, that can trigger diarrhea. There are a lot of people who've, tried the 12 eggs a day thing and have tried eating 12 eggs in one meal. They have diarrhea. That could explain some of it. Eggs are all obviously not great for you. They're extremely high in cholesterol, which will raise your serum cholesterol score, which is the principal risk factor for heart disease. And on top of that, he's cooking it in butter, which is probably like literally the worst food for you.
That's right, a whole dozen, and I combine that with half a pound of sausage. And the sausage is something that
So, red meat is very bad for you. It is linked with multiple forms of cancer. The most common forms of cancer that red meat is associated with would be lung, esophageal, and gastrointestinal cancers. And I think also cancers of the pancreas. It's also high in saturated fat, which again does cause heart disease. Saturated fat itself is also linked to certain cancers like breast and prostate cancer. Does also contain cholesterol, again, which will raise your serum cholesterol score. Red meat is also linked with type 2 diabetes, and that's regardless of weight gain. So it's probably due to the saturated fat and possibly the heme iron in red meat. It damages your pancreas, and it also stops, it also just prevents insulin action. So not a good choice, and he says this is sausage, meaning it's a processed form of red meat, which is even worse.
I have not regularly eaten, I don't think ever, at least not in a very long time. And I gotta say, throwing it back into the breakfast rotation, this stuff is pretty tasty. Something I want to note right off the bat, you can see that I am using stainless steel to cook the eggs, and stainless steel or cast iron to cook the sausage. Up until very recently, I used non-stick cookware, but I recently made this switch exclusively to these two because they do not contain any PFAs. I'm not going to go into an entire spiel about what these things are, but these are going to be found in any type of non-stick cookware, and it is kind of annoying to get the eggs not to stick in stainless steel. A quick trick you can use is heat the pan up until you get this reaction right here. Basically, the water is going to form bubbles that bounce in the pan. Once you see these, the pan is going to be ready for use, so I put butter in it as soon as I see those. Then I pour the eggs in. There is a bit of sticking that occurs, but it is very minimal. When I first started using the stainless steel, I got all kinds of sticking. It was getting very annoying. So using that trick is going to make this process a lot easier. So since the pans get preheated, these things cook pretty quickly. I also put in approximately 4 tablespoons of butter. That is spread out across the day.
Yeah, so again, that's a lot of saturated fat. Butter is one of the worst foods that you could possibly eat.
I use approximately 2 when making this meal, but the dozen eggs come out to 72 grams of protein, 60 grams of fat. The half a pound of pork comes out to 36 grams of protein and 51 grams of fat. And I also add 2 slices of this mozzarella cheese from Tillamook. That is a fun name. They're based in Oregon in the United States. This cheese is great quality. It's very tasty. I melt these on top as well. The cheese slices, 2 of them comes...
So this doesn't seem like it's, yeah, it's not a low-fat type of cheese. So you are still getting a significant amount of saturated fat from consuming something like this. So the type of fat found in cheese doesn't seem to raise serum cholesterol as much as other dairy products like butter, or as other sources of saturated fat like in red meat, but it still raises it. So it's not quite as bad from a heart disease perspective, but it's still pretty bad. So not a great choice. And again, there's 0 fiber in any of this food. Not getting any antioxidants, like none of the beneficial plant nutrients. So terrible so far.
Goes out to 10 grams of protein, 2 grams of carbs, and 12 grams of fat. And I put some sour cream on this dish too. This is a very...
So again, more saturated fat.
Big bowl. You might not be able to really tell based on the camera angle, but this bowl is gigantic. If I finish cooking by, say, 9 a.m., oftentimes it will be around noon when I finally finish that final bite. I will usually dig into it quickly and then I hit that.
So again, this is another indication that this guy is not eating 6,000 calories per day. So it takes him 3 hours to finish one single meal. Does that sound like he's hitting 6,000 calories every single day? Like all you have, like you can only take his word for it. Like there's no type of process that he's going through to verify that he's eating all of this. He's not videoing himself eating every single meal every day. So you just have to take his word for it. And again, he says these conflicting things like, it takes me 3 hours to finish one single bowl of food. Again, he's probably not eating 6,000 calories every single day. And on top of that, he's also claiming he's having frequent diarrhea.
Wall of hunger. I'm just totally stuffed. Some time goes by, I kind of pick at it, then I'll finally finish it. So in total, this breakfast comes out to 118 grams of protein,
Yeah, so only 1,500 calories, and it takes him 3 hours to finish it. He's not getting to 6,000 calories every day.
2 grams of carbs, and 123 grams of fat, totaling 1,497 calories. So as I finish up the first meal and let it cool off a bit, I prepare the second meal, which is ice cream. Not anabolic ice cream, carnivore ice cream, featuring only 2 ingredients and no ice cream maker needed. Now, of course, if you want to make this more aesthetically pleasing and have the best texture possible, you can use an ice cream machine. You guys know me, I am very culinarily lazy. I don't care how good my food looks, I just need to get it eaten. That's all I really care about. So how I make this is I get 1 pint of raw heavy cream. That comes out to 2 cups.
So you might notice it says for cats and dogs. It's illegal in most states to sell raw dairy, and there's a very good reason for that. Cows, just like human beings, can get tuberculosis. In fact, tuberculosis probably was transferred from cows to humans. That's how humans ended up getting tuberculosis. So if you eat dairy, raw dairy from a cow that has tuberculosis, you can die. You not only can tuberculosis be transferred, through the air and infect your lungs, it can also infect your body, and the infection can spread to your bones. That is one of the most painful and life-threatening diseases you can have. So if you want to eat raw dairy that's, meant for cats and dogs, you can roll the dice and hope you don't get bovine tuberculosis or any other disease that the cow might have. Again, cows can get bacterial infections in their udders, and if you drink that milk, you'll also get that infection. You can get food poisoning, shit like that. If you want to roll the dice, don't say I didn't warn you.
You can see on the label here, given that it's raw dairy, it is labeled as pet food, not for human consumption, but that's okay because I got that dog in me. So I will pour the entire pint of cream into this bowl, mix 2 eggs.
So one thing to note here, eggs have salmonella. And what a lot of people don't know, the salmonella in eggs, it's not actually within the shell. It's around the egg. That's where the salmonella is contained. Sometimes the salmonella can get in if the egg is cracked. So if there's like some kind of hole for the salmonella to get into the egg, but it's usually just contained around the shell. So if you're touching eggs with your bare hands, cracking them open, and you're touching other food with those hands that touch the outside of the egg that could contain salmonella, you're going to increase your risk of salmonella poisoning. So this is bad, dangerous sort of food handling. If you're handling an egg, you have to make sure that you wash your hands afterwards so that you don't contaminate any of the other food you're eating.
Eggs, those are from the dozen earlier, so I would only have 10 with breakfast in that case and then 2 here. In any case, I'm getting 12 eggs total during the day, so the macros are not affected. I will mix that up, and then I've oftentimes eaten this ice cream after it is frozen a little bit. I will eat it without any sweeteners added. I don't think the taste is that bad. It does taste better overall with a bit of sweetener though. So something that you can throw in is, I would go for stevia or allulose. Allulose has some benefits that I'm not going to go into in this video. You can look it up if you'd like. A guy named Nick Norwitz has videos explaining the benefits of allulose compared to other sweeteners. It's very unique in terms of how the body responds to it. This is what ice cream was supposed to be. This is actual iced cream. So I mixed this all up, put it in the freezer for 2 to 3 hours. Once I take it out, it has to thaw for a little bit. But if you time it just right, you're going to get this texture that resembles normal ice cream pretty much to the T.
Gross.
Yeah, it is gross. Thanks for the donation, Vivian, though.
Now that said, you can also make this in a typical milk or milkshake form. I've been doing that a lot recently because it's simply easier. Drinking cream is not easy. It's very, very thick. It doesn't taste bad, I would say, but given the texture, it's just hard to kind of put down. So you can also break this up by mixing it with, for example, normal milk or even some water. This is a bomb in terms of the total fat intake: 12 grams of protein, 12 grams of carbs, and 172 grams of fat.
So again, this might explain his diarrhea. He's literally just eating straight cream, which again, it's kind of like drinking a bottle of olive oil. You're probably going to have diarrhea if you do something like that. So on top of that, again, this is a source of dairy fat. You will find that dairy sources of fat, they don't absorb as well as other animal sources of fat. So that might also explain why he's having diarrhea. He's also consuming a lot of dairy throughout this whole video. So he may actually be lactose intolerant and not know it. Lactose intolerance can also cause diarrhea.
Totaling 1,644 calories. So up next is a half pound of 80/20 ground beef. And I either make this on the stove or in the air fryer. I tend to be
So again, more red meat. It's a link to diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. Terrible choice.
favoring the air fryer recently because it's less cleanup and it's just easier to do, not as time consuming. So I will typically do that, and I will do one slice of more Tillamook cheese. This time it is the medium cheddar.
So again, just more saturated fat because apparently he hasn't eaten enough yet.
So for the half pound of ground beef, that comes out to 38 grams of protein, no carbs, 44 grams of fat, and 548 calories. The one slice of cheese is 6 grams of protein, 1 gram of carb, 9 grams of fat, and 109 calories total. I will throw sour cream on top of this as well. So once I finally stuff that down, up next is the pre-workout meal, and that is raw milk. Yes, it is back. I was worried a bit about my digestion with this. Now, you guys know in the past I was drinking up to a half gallon of this a day. That's whenever I was getting the psoriasis breakout. Now, that said, I was also eating a lot of other foods that I have come to realize don't agree with me at the same time. So it's hard to say how much was the milk versus other things. Something to note with this milk, it is not only raw, meaning not pasteurized, not homogenized. That doesn't mean it's not sanitized. People think raw milk means it's just right out of the udder, and people...
Is this a fitness channel or a shortness channel?
You know, it might be a mix of the two. Thanks for the donation, though, Ethan, now.
Drink it. That is not the case if it's being sold under state guidelines. But it also is A2A2, and it keeps all of the vitamins, all of the enzymes, drinking up fat, and 548 calories. The one slice of cheese is 6 grams of protein, 1 gram of carb, 9 grams of fat, and 109 calories total. I will throw sour cream on top of this as well. So once
So again, not enough fat yet.
Finally stuff that down, up next is the pre-workout meal, and that is raw milk. Yes, it is back. I was worried a bit about my digestion with this. Now, you guys know in the past I was drinking up to a half gallon of this a day. That's whenever I was getting the psoriasis breakout.
Should have been shitness. 777,777.
Yep. His channel actually is becoming shit. I was watching some of his earlier content, and then he's become more and more retarded, especially with diet. Thanks for the donation, Ethan, though.
Now, that said, I was also eating a lot of other foods that I have come to realize don't agree with me at the same time. So it's hard to say how much was the milk versus other things. Something to note with this milk, it is not only raw, meaning not pasteurized, not homogenized. That doesn't mean it's not sanitized. People think raw milk means it's just right out of the udder, and people drink it. That is not the case if it's being...
I don't know what this chart is from. He probably got this from some sort of blog post. This isn't a scientific source, so this is just bullshit.
Sold under state guidelines, but it also is A2A2, and it keeps all of the vitamins, all of the enzymes, and all of the gut bacteria in it because it's not being heated before you consume it. 2 cups comes out to 16 grams of protein, 24 grams of carbs, and 16 grams of fat, 304 total calories. So I go lift, and once I get back home, it's time for the final meal of the...
How much carbohydrates were in there? Only 24.
And once I get back home, it's time for the final meal of the day, which is very exciting, 1 pound of 80/20 ground beef. And I will put 2 slices of the Tillamook medium cheddar on top of that as well.
Is he eating that with the grease? Yeah, bro, if he keeps eating like this, he's gonna have a heart attack.
That comes out to 76 grams of protein and 88 grams of fat in the beef, 12 grams of protein, 2 grams of carbs, and 18 grams of fat for 218 calories in the cheese. So now the grand total with all that food, we are at 6,004.
What does A2 raw milk mean? We're going to divide all cows into 2 groups, those having A1 beta casein, those having A2 beta casein, because they have 2 beta casein genes, one from mom, one from dad. Those with A1 beta casein have a genetic mutation that allows BCM7 in the milk to be digested. BCM7 has been associated with increased gastrointestinal inflammation and worsening of PD3 symptoms, among other things. But the A2 beta casein gene does not allow BCM7 to be digested. So that's what it means. It's just a type of cow. Okay. I'm gonna have to research that a little more.
44 calories per day, 280 grams of protein, 43 grams of carbs, and 528 grams of fat. So the macronutrient breakdown, this is very, very in opposition with what you commonly see. 18% from protein, 3% from carbs, and 79% from fats. The time of day I wake up has a big impact on how my eating schedule goes. So if I wake up as I'm scheduled to at say 7 a.m., and if I take a shower, get ready, start eating breakfast relatively quickly, that will set a good pace for the day. But if I stay up late, if I sleep in, if something happens and I don't get to my breakfast until say 9:30, 10 a.m., it just pushes the overall food that much farther back. And some of you guys may have experienced this on your bulks as well. You may have to be sitting up at night, just staring at that food like, I don't want to eat it. And you have a decision to make. Do you finish up that meal, or maybe even extra meals if you're in that scenario too, or do you just go to bed? That also gets into a debate of what's going to really make you grow more, the extra food or the extra sleep that you would get, as opposed to losing sleep but getting the extra food. Opinions are going to vary on that. I have not totally made my mind up one way or the other. I suppose you could say sleep would probably do more for your overall growth, but that also depends on how much food that you're missing out on. And now we'll finish up talking about my current supplement stack. And some news to start off here. I am officially a Transparent Labs affiliate. I'm a big fan of the company's vision. They have verified to that point, but I want to get it.
Oh, that's collagen.
Natural collagen production starts to noticeably decrease around age 30.
Collagen supplements do not increase collagen production in the body. Only collagen peptides do. So the supplement is garbage.
I'm not even 30 years. And next up is the Hydrate Electrolyte Formula. Now, you guys have probably noticed it has been hot as balls outside lately. It has been do not drink a ton of water during. The supplement has a great blend of ingredients. We've got calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium.
So he would need something like this on his diet because he's consuming so little carbohydrates. If you're eating a diet like this, you're going to become dehydrated. Even if you take this electrolyte supplement, you likely still will just end up being dehydrated because you need carbohydrates to hold on to these electrolytes. Can reverse diet increase metabolism?
It also includes taurine, which I usually judge by my urine, as well as some other signs, namely muscle tightness and...
It did say peptides? I didn't see that. Oh, yeah. Bovine collagen peptides, okay.
Please
or anything like that either. Only liver oil. It is a great blend of supplements, all in one single. The tendons currently are the elbows. So it got to a point during my prep sometimes that my elbow, mainly on the left side, it would hurt so bad, I effectively could not train my arms. I would do one hard set of triceps, like the top set, and within a couple reps it would hurt. I just couldn't go farther. And the same would happen with the biceps too. And being unable to train arms, that's simply unacceptable. So I've been taking the supplement for about 4 weeks so far, and I can say within the first 10 to 14 days of taking it, that elbow stress I was getting definitely went down. It is not totally alleviated at this point, but it is.
It's all in his head. All make-believe placebo effect bullshit.
Is much more manageable and not nearly as painful. It's to the point now where I am getting no interference on my sets anymore. Cyactive joint contains a mixture of 4 potent ingredients at high dosages that have been clinically shown to improve joint pain, function, and other related variables.
Cool
Even
story.
if you do the warm-ups, the mobility, you put on the wraps and sleeves, you do the high-rep band work and everything, if you're still having trouble, definitely give this a shot. And next we go into what you could call the gateway drug of supplements, creatine. 5 grams a day, deep. It's of taurine in the body that per day. The dose, available blood sugar, but it is not easy. But nobody said this was going to be easy, nor is it supposed to be easy. But this has been it for me, guys. Thank you.
Well, Revival Fitness is going to give himself a heart attack. He's eating massive, ridiculous quantities of saturated fat. Tons of red meat. And he's having diarrhea and crap too. So it's not like any of this is benefiting him in any way. He may be having diarrhea just from the ridiculous fat consumption, may have something to do with the zero fiber diet, might have something to do with him being lactose intolerant, or it could be a combination of all three. In either case, there's no point for him to eat that many calories because he's not even absorbing it all. It's just going at his ass. Really, really stupid. But I guess he just likes torturing and killing animals and wasting money on food and ruining his own health.